Well, hello there. Apologies to anybody who's been wondering where on earth we've been. Robin has been having some technical gremlins, so we may very well just have a still picture of Robin, or if we're very, very unlucky, a blank screen. But Robin's audio is there, so we'll certainly be able to talk to him. So please, if you are out there and listening, pop some comments in the comments boxes and things, and then we can actually make Robin feel a bit more loved than he is already at the moment. So, since we've only got 20 minutes or so, I'd like to welcome today's guest, Robin Davis. Hello, Robin.
Hello. I'm not really in the dark.
Yeah. Well, that's yeah. If we'd had more notice, we could have at least put an image there instead. So yeah, just in case you come back, we will. So anyway, today's topic was releasing the dragon within, which was our way of sort of saying there are certain things that are already within companies that needs that could help fire up innovation. Some of this was some of the tools and things, and some was the human capital. And these are the dragons we need to release. So yeah, that's our starting point. So tell us about some of these dragons, then, Robin.
Some of the dragons. Well, I mean, everyone has a degree of creativity and innovation within them, and people come up with some great ideas. In many organizations, obviously, the bigger they get, it's actually surfacing those ideas from within, which is difficult. People come up with ideas and they get squashed, or people don't feel as if they're empowered enough to actually come up with those ideas or to take those ideas forward. So, as I think you've heard me talk about before, we have a thing called the GC index, which actually helps people understand their natural energy profile for their potential to create an impact. One of those is the game changer. So people who come up with left field ideas that can then be implemented. We also have a polisher, so someone who actually comes up with continuous improvement. So nothing transformational, but something will actually improve the status quo. A lot of people go through life not knowing any of those whatsoever. They feel frightened. They're in their box with the label of their role title on it, and they don't feel empowered to actually be able to utilize that creativity, that innovation they have within them. And what we do with the GC Index, we work both with individuals and with teams and even with organizational units to say, you have these people here who are game changers or polishers. These are the people who have these ideas. Don't stick them in the back room. Utilize them, because they have the natural energy. They want to contribute this. So don't just behold them to their role title. Enable them to actually express that innovation, express that creativity, and put them to good use.
So is it just those? How many categories have you got? I was going to say boxes, but that's not quite the right thing. But how many measurements do you? Classifications, if you like.
Yeah, we have 5. So we have the game changers. So they come up with the innovative, brand new left field ideas. We have a strategist who then kicks the tires of those ideas and likes to see the big picture. So a game changer quite often has trouble having people understand their ideas, and a strategist will actually help translate their ideas into something that everyone else can actually understand and actually say, yes, this is a good idea. I can see how this fits together as a jigsaw piece in the bigger picture. We then have an implementer who just likes to roll up their sleeves and get things done. They will deliver. The hardest part for them is to ensure they deliver what is actually strategically wanted. Then beyond that, we have the polisher who likes to make things perfect, continuous improvement, and just their hardest challenge is to say when it's good enough. And then we have in the middle, we have what we call a playmaker. So that's someone who tries to gets the best out of people. You can see how people actually people's natural talents and get people to collaborate and have consensus. So there's 5 in total. Everyone has a mix of all 5, but they are normally quite a different mix, and we can actually balance a team because it all maps all those 5 what we call proclivities, your natural tendencies for jobs that you like to do. That actually scales up to teams as well, and we can actually make sure that there is an even energy, because all of these 5 proclivities, they actually map onto the natural business change life cycle. So the key objective of all of this is to get people to communicate, people to understand where their natural strengths are, get people to communicate and do more of the stuff that they like to do. So, for instance, I have actually quite an even energy profile across all those proclivities, which is very good for a consultant. I can step back where I need to, I can step up where I need to. And if, what was my point?
You're not supposed to forget what you're going to say.
I know.
But
I can adapt to whatever a client needs or whatever else, but I can see where we can see by looking at those energy profiles where the talents are. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, so I have an even energy profile, but my implementer, even though it's mid-level, I know that my implementer is for me. I don't like implementing for other people necessarily.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want to spend all day just rolling up my sleeves and getting stuff done, because my other proclivities, my other natural tendencies, the things that I like to deliver, they wouldn't get a look in.
So when you're looking at companies, are you working to sort of, I suppose, an ideal balance, an ideal profile, or if you're looking at say companies in different industry sectors, do they need or do they have different balances of these tendencies?
They can have different balances. I mean, we do have 5 sort of team profiles, which have their own psychological pros and cons, their own strengths and challenges of things that you need to look at. So we have an inventive, an innovative, a transformational, a business as usual, and a pragmatic team. So each of those have different profiles. But depending on the sector, coming to that question, I did actually do an analysis of some CIOs a few months ago. There were 3 CIO role profiles. So this is just the role profile. So we have a thing called GC Translate, which does the same for written documentation as the GC profile does for the individual. And there is a role spec for a CIO for NATO. So that role spec, it needed more strategist and playmaker. Strategist to see the bigger picture over a longer period of time, and the playmaker to actually, obviously they have a lot of stakeholders that they need to manage. So that was heavy strategist and playmaker. There was also the CIO of NICE, the clinical excellence people. Obviously, they need to make things pretty much perfect all the way through. So they had more of an accent on the polisher to make things perfect, continuous improvement. There was also one for the CIO for the post office, which was a bit more generic. They basically needed to do more of a generic transformation. But we can actually look at the teams, we can look at the individuals, we can actually balance them even throughout an actual change program. So at the beginning, we want people who are like the game changers and the strategists, people who are the idea people. We want more of them in the room than maybe implementers or polishers who are more action oriented.
So how do you show all this, show all these things to potential clients? If you have a look at some of their employees or all of their employees, what do they actually see? What do you, I was going to say, alarm them with, um, in the nicest possible way? How do you shock them, make them see something? Do they get pretty pictures? Do they get graphs? Do they get traffic lights? What do they see?
They do get pretty pictures, and if my screen wasn't frozen, I'd be able to show you one.
We might have
They-
to
they-
have you back again with a little refresher sometime.
yeah, they do get a pretty picture. I call it a bubble diagram, but basically it's a bit like the face of the number 5 face of a dice. So
Hmm.
two up, two down, and one in the middle,
Yeah,
and that shows their energy profile. Um, and depending on what we're comparing it with, or even for a team, it's the same sort of profile. But whenever we actually show it compared to a CEO or compared to a board, if you're looking at teams, or we're looking at written documentation as to, say, a strategy document, we can actually start to marry up and see
yeah,
what quite visible differences are. And what
yeah,
that does, that actually enables us to come up with insightful questions to say, okay, well, that's interesting. Okay, what do we do about this? How do we go about actually addressing this, or how do we go about actually utilizing this? And it just enables people to communicate a lot more and understand each other a lot more, so you can actually get the best out of each other, and people are more motivated and engaged. Because the last thing you want is people feeling as if they're not being heard, they're not being listened to, they're being asked to do things that they don't particularly want to do. And that's where you get, lack of motivation, lack of engagement, and you start to inject toxicity, lack of productivity, and everything else into the life cycle. So even if you do have great innovative transformation programs or innovative programs or projects, if you haven't got engaged people throughout that life cycle, it can quite easily and very quickly jeopardize the whole delivery.
I was just about to ask the question what, but I might change the question. I was going to ask the question, what is the biggest barrier? But since you've just outlined it, there's no point in asking the question. But this could be the question that, and if we do actually have somebody listening, you never know, they might not like the answer to. But the question I'm going to ask is, who are the biggest problems? Because I've done something similar with barriers to creativity within organisations, and it fairly easily identified certain people within the organisation. So I just wonder if there was I wouldn't say somebody who you can blame for everything, but who are the most common blockers? I suppose is the question.
It's a very good question. I mean, there are multiple blockers around the whole area. I mean, the biggest blocker that I find is people actually acknowledging that there is a problem, a challenge, something to be overcome, that they think the status quo is perfectly okay. I'm doing my job okay. Typically as a leader, I'm doing my job as a leader. My team know what they need to do, and they get on with it. So someone who has an authoritative leader is probably one of the main blockers of that, if they don't recognize that there are improvements that can be made. So you need someone to actually acknowledge that there is an improvement to be made. Then they can go out and engage us. And where we are engaged, at board level, CEO level, anywhere, they do see the value, and they see that, oh, that's very interesting. Because most of our life we go through about weaknesses, saying, we all know what our weaknesses are, but we don't know what our strengths are. Other than that, the biggest blocker is effectively the same thing. People do not know what their strengths are. Everyone. A lot of people do not know what their strengths are at an individual level, and certainly at a team level. people are stuck in their little boxes with their little labels on top saying project manager or developer or whatever else, and they're restricted to that box and never to stray out of it. And if they do, they get replaced. So it's actually recognizing that people, an organization is described by the conversations within. It is not described by products or anything else. The organization is a thing. It is nothing without the people inside it.
Reminds me of, sorry, I was just going to say, it reminds me of a diagram I once saw, which was it was a contrast. They showed you the sort of hierarchy diagram of the makeup of the company, but then next to it was a diagram with lots of dots and lots of lines between all the dots, and it was effectively the same as a social media map. What it actually did was it mapped the conversations, it mapped the communication, it mapped the interactions. Yeah. Oh, we have a comment.
We have two.
We have two. Yes. So it shows that Nicholas and Rahila are. In fact, I'm just going to prove that the technology works. There we go. That's Nicholas who's listening in.
Excellent.
So yeah, and Robin's come back just at this moment. This is great. So yes,
thank you, Nicholas. You've unblocked the pipe somehow.
We'll attribute it to Nicholas. He's unblocked the pipe. So yes, that's just validated what you were saying. And was it Raheel? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's obviously a use for this tool then, Robin.
That certainly is. I mean, there's over this year. I mean, at the start of this year, I need to update my website. At the start of this year, there were 3,000 companies worldwide that use the GC index. AstraZeneca are using it across their whole enterprise. Then I think in about April it went up to 4,000. Then over the summer it was 6,000, and now I think currently it's over 7,500 globally. There's more and more people using it. Basically, wherever you have people in any process. So,
does it tend to be the larger companies that really take to it, or is there a whole range?
It's a whole range. I mean, you can do it for individuals, but yeah, it's a whole range. You normally start off somewhere within the company. But the bigger companies typically have the biggest problems or the biggest opportunities,
and
to actually
hence biggest potential gains from it.
They do, but also I've noticed that smaller companies, startups or whatever, they really want to know. They want to get set off on the right foot. So they are very happy to engage and get those insights, because it's not a magic bullet. It's a data diagnostic.
Yeah, it's something you have to use.
It's a diagnostic that provides insights on something which you've never seen before. You've had to try and infer in your head from experience, expertise, personality. You just think, what does the person actually contribute, or do they have a potential to contribute?
But for those people who have enjoyed listening to Robin and seeing him a little bit for the last couple of minutes, if you want to find out a bit more about what he does and measuring these things, or connect on LinkedIn, or even book a little chat with him, the contact details are on the screen. They'll be there in the video, such that it is. There'll be lots of me staring at the screen with accompanied by a wonderful soundtrack of Robin.
But now you've released the dragon within.
Well, yeah. Now you know how to release the dragon within. Get hold of Robin, and Puff the Magic Dragon will come out. So there we go. So yes, it's been interesting. I think we'll have to have Robin back to talk about something else with video at some point in the future. But anyway, thanks for giving us 20 minutes of not knowing whether you're facing a camera or not. That's that's probably worse than being on camera all of the time. So anyway, thank you, Robin. I'm sure our paths will cross again some point. And thank you to everybody else who has been listening in, watching in, or watching and listening in, whatever. We'll have another one of these in a couple of weeks' time. The replay will be available if you want to listen to it all again. So thank you very much for giving up some of your lunchtime.